Alright, this video is going to be about how to add and subtract fractions. And with fractions, there are really only 3 rules, and we're just going to be looking at the first 2 in this video. So I have a few examples here. Our first one is 1/2 plus 3/2. Okay, so let's look at our first rule. It says to add or subtract fractions, the first thing you do is get the same bottom number. And once you have that, you add or subtract the top number and keep the bottom number. Okay, so here we have a 2 on the bottom on the left and a 2 on the bottom on the right. So our first part is already done. All we have to do now is add or subtract the top number and keep the bottom number. Okay, so 1 plus 3 on the top gives us 4. And we keep the bottom number, which is 2. And this is our answer, but you can simplify this. And all a fraction is just dividing the top number by the bottom number. So 4 divided by 2 gives us 2. Okay, let's look at our second problem. Here we have 1/2 plus 1/4. Okay, we're adding again, so we have to first get the same number on the bottom. Here we have a 2, and on the right we have a 4. So the way you do that with fractions is you have to multiply. What you want to do is think to yourself, how can I get from the smaller number on the bottom of one fraction to the bigger number on the bottom of the other fraction by multiplying? So how do we get from 2 to 4 by multiplying? Well, if you know your multiplication tables, you just kind of run through them. You think 2 times 1 is 2, 2 times 2 is 4, and that's what we need. So we know we need to multiply by 2. So let's bring down our 1/2 plus 1/4. Now we're not allowed to just multiply the 1/2 by 2 because that would change our number and not give us the right answer. But we can do a kind of sneaky trick. We're going to multiply by 2 over 2. And we're allowed to do this because 2 divided by 2 is just 1. And you multiply any number by 1 and it doesn't change it. You just have the same number. Okay, but now we have a multiplication problem, so we need to go back to our rules. And here it says to multiply fractions, you multiply top times top, bottom times bottom. To me, that's really the easiest rule. Okay, order of operations says we need to multiply first before we do the addition. So our multiplication rule says top number times top number. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 2 on the bottom would give us 4. We bring down our 1/4. Okay, now we have the same bottom number. So we just go back to our first rule. The second step is to add the top and keep the bottom. So 2 plus 1 equals 3 on the top. Keep the bottom number, which is 4. And that's our answer, 3/4. Okay, looking at our third problem, we have 4/7 minus -2/3. So the first thing we need to do is get the same bottom number. And you might think to yourself, well, there's no way I can multiply 3 to get to 7. And that's right, but there is a trick we can use to get the same bottom number still. So what I'm going to do is just bring down my problem. 4/7 minus -2/3. Okay, so before we looked at the bottom number that was smaller and we multiplied the other one by that number over itself. We're going to do a similar thing here, but this time we have to multiply both fractions by a number. And it's really easy. All you have to do, take the number on one fraction on the bottom, bring it over. So for this side, we're going to be multiplying 3/3. And on this side, we take the 7, and we're going to multiply the fraction on the right by 7/7. Okay, so multiplication rule, 3 times 4, top times top, is 12. 3 times 7 on the bottom is 21. and we have a minus a negative. Now anytime you're subtracting a negative, just know that that's the same thing as adding a positive. So some people like to do plus plus. I'm just going to erase the second one. Okay, and on the right side we have 2 times 7 on the top would give us 14. 3 times 7 on the bottom is 21. Alright, we have the same number on the bottom, so all we have to do now is add the top number and keep the bottom. So 12 plus 14 is going to give us 26 over 21. And that's our answer. Okay, let's look at our last problem here. We have 4/9 minus 2/3. And we can do the same thing as in the last problem. We could multiply the fraction on the left by 3 over 3 and the fraction on the right by 9 over 9. That would give us the same bottom number or denominator. But you may not want to do that every time because you end up with bigger numbers. So we want to keep it as simple as possible. So our first step is just going to be what we did before, which is think to ourselves, how can we multiply to get from the smaller number, the 3, to the bigger number, the 9? So 3 times 1 is 3, 3 times 2 is 6, 3 times 3 is 9. That's what we need. So we're going to keep our 4/9 minus 2/3. And we know we need to multiply the right side by 3 over 3. Okay, bring down 4/9 again. Minus, here's our multiplication rule. Top times top, 2 times 3 is 6. 3 times 3 is 9. Now we have the same bottom number, so we just subtract 4 minus 6 on the top is going to give us a -2, keep the bottom number over 9. And we're done.